I just was talking to an expert who was telling me that in Wuhan, China, after the epidemic and people were getting back into their lives uh, in sort of a normal way, that couples were overwhelming the court system with requests for divorces. And, being a relationship coach, that just it didn't really surprise me, but it did on the other hand, it surprised me. And so I wanted to hop on here and talk to you guys about this reality, because it's not a fantasy that this is an opportunity for couples, but it's also not a fantasy that it is absolutely a challenging time for couples. I'm getting lots of emails from my clients about, oh my God, we had this big fight, and oh my God, we had this big fight. And, one of them is a couple that hasn't been doing that well, and one of them is a couple that's been doing great. So it's like, hey, welcome, Georgia, whether you are one of those couples that's been doing great or not doing great, this sheltering at home situation is an opportunity for you to really embrace changing things, sitting down together and saying, what do we want to create in this situation? How do we want to handle this unique situation that none of us has ever been in before? And, welcome to all the people hopping on. How do you want to handle this? Do you want to handle it the way we've handled everything before, which is with not too much awareness, I have to say, being reactive and blaming and being defensive and, all of those things? Or do you want to take this opportunity to really sit down and say, you know what, life is going to be different after this pandemic is resolved and people get back to whatever the new normal is, which we don't know. Or we can just say, we're going to stay and we're going to do exactly what we've been doing. And, if you're a couple that hasn't been happy up until now, and you're entering into this pandemic with the thought that, you know what, let's just call it quits because there's nothing going to happen between us, then, you can do that. Or you could say, you know what, we got nothing else to do right now. And I don't mean the couples that have 3 kids at home and so forth. They have a lot to do. But still, there is still time, because, if he's used to going and playing softball or whatever, there is no going anywhere. You still do have more time together. So why not take this as an opportunity to avoid doing what all the couples in Wuhan are apparently doing, which is running to get divorces? And I'm not just saying this as a self-serving thing, but a lot of times you're not going to be able to get out of those old patterns by yourselves, and you're going to need to get some counseling or some coaching. And it's like, take advantage of this time. Take advantage of this time to let yourselves do that, to let yourselves find resources and support, to sit down and really, hey, Jara, welcome, to sit down and really take seriously the opportunity that you have, because you get to decide. You get to decide whether you're going to keep reacting and blaming that other person for your unhappiness, or whether you are going to, hey, Daniel, welcome, whether you are going to, and hi, Adrian, whether you're going to take it on. And of course, my encouragement to you is take it on, take it on. It's like this time together can absolutely change your life. It can absolutely change the way that you relate to one another. If you sit down, hey, Camden, if you sit down and you are, yeah, Camden says lots of opportunities and curiosities in this time. And I love that she mentioned the word curiosity, because that is something we do not have enough with our partners and with all of our relationships, but we're talking about partners on this particular live. We don't sit down and say, I wonder why we have fallen into such a slump. And I wonder what we can do about it. I wonder how we can clean up the resentments that we have with each other. That one, for some reason, makes me want to cry. You know, I wonder how we can get past all the resentments of all this time. And what do you say? You know, what do you hope to accomplish during this uh, sheltering at home time? And to sit down, even if you're a family with kids, sit down and ask them, how do they want to improve themselves? What skills do they want to develop during this time? And to tell them and talk to them about the skills and the way of treatment that you and your partner want to develop during this time. And of course, a few things come to mind that I want to share with you as possible tools to develop. You know, one of them we've already talked about is curiosity. Huge, huge, important way of being is to be curious about what's going on, curious about noticing your own patterns, because until you notice what's going on, you don't have a hope of changing it. And you know what? If you ask most people, you know, are you reactive? Most people would say yes, because it's true. If you say, you know, do you have good communication with your partner? Can you really talk about everything in a neutral way? Most people would say no. And it's like, you know, these simple things of sit down and see what you're noticing about yourself to start out with, and about how you treat your partner. Do you listen intently? Do you ask questions about how they're doing? Are you interested in how they're doing? Are you kind? And kindness definitely goes both ways. If you notice, you know, and compassion, I kind of lump kindness and compassion in together. But if you notice that you are not being compassionate with yourself when you are aware that you acted like a jerk, then what are you going to do if you have no compassion for yourself? You're going to try to cover it up. You're going to try to blame your partner. You're going to try to pretend like it didn't happen. You're going to try to pretend like it wasn't as painful as it was. But if you have compassion, and you know, my interview earlier was saying that the origin of the word sin is missed the mark. Missed the mark. And if we could get rid of this punitive way we have of thinking about sin and mistakes and just think of it in that neutral way that we missed the mark, what a new world that would be. Just that one thing. So when you notice that you're doing, you know, you feel yucky inside, or you've been angry at your partner, you blamed them or whatever, if you can just say, I think I'm noticing that I missed the mark. And then you go back to the intention that you and your partner have set to improve your relationship, to clean up your relationship. Then you can go back and say, I noticed that I missed the mark. I'd like to redo that. You know, that's a very, very powerful thing to do, is to be able to notice what you're doing and not judge yourself. So notice what you're doing and notice the patterns that you've gotten into, and have compassion for yourself. We're all just learning. Nobody here is perfect. I can tell you that. I certainly am not. You know, I still get reactive. I still blame my husband sometimes. And we're working on it. We're both aware. And that's what makes the difference, is that we're both engaged in that process of noticing what we're doing, even if it's after the fact, and then we clean it up. And the other thing is to keep reminding yourself that your happiness is so much about your own state of mind and how you're interpreting things. If you notice that you're being triggered every time your husband or wife, hey, Matt, every time your husband or wife is asking you to do something around the household, if you notice that you're triggered every time that happens, it's like, what does that mean? Where did that come from? Why am I doing that? You know, really, really take that on and just notice without judging yourself and without judging them, and go back again to that intention that you set to do things differently now, to offer love and support to one another when we're in trouble. You know, that's a huge thing that happens with couples is, you know, when your husband is acting like a jerk, instead of saying, honey, how can I support you? I know you're struggling right now. We so often jump to attack, and then it just goes nowhere good, does it? So just remember that, again, that this is a time where we can take a breath. We can manage our minds, because everyone has been dealt a certain fate during this situation, haven't we? Some of us are really lucky that we still have a beautiful place to live, a safe place to live. We have enough food to eat. And some people are dealt a very much more challenging fate. And, we can't control the fate that comes to us. But what we can control is the destiny that comes out of that fate. You can't control that you are trapped at home with your partner, but you can control what you do about it. And it really, so much of that depends on your state of mind, and noticing what your mind is telling you. If your mind is telling you, oh my God, I'm trapped with him, how can I possibly survive this? Or you could be saying, wow, I noticed that we're going to be together a lot over the next few weeks and months, perhaps. I wonder what I can do to change our situation, to open our hearts. Just think how you feel so differently about what you say. And this is all about managing your thoughts and noticing your thoughts and becoming more aware. And I started off saying that you know what, we are not that aware, unfortunately. And that's okay. I heard recently that some neurobiologist was saying, it's a shame that there isn't much brain power, on the biological level. There isn't much brain power devoted to awareness in human beings. So we have to develop it. It's not our faults, but it is our responsibility, and we can develop that skill. We can develop that strength. And again, what better time? And I have a summit coming up in a few weeks, like 3 weeks, about developing more passionate intimacy and deeper connections and lasting desire. And whether you focus that on sacred sexuality, or whether you're just focusing that on better relationships and more intimacy, it's like, grab all the resources you can, get all the support you can right now, and stop and think about, do you want to come out the other side of this sheltering at home situation saying, wow, I really used this time incredibly well? Or do you want to end up like the coronavirus people recovering in Wuhan, China, who are running to the courthouse to get divorced in such huge numbers that they can't even process them all? I don't want that for you guys. Some of you will inevitably go that direction, but there are lots of you that don't have to go that direction if you really are willing to stop and take responsibility for what you want to create, and then be rigorous about that every day. Be disciplined about that every day. Watch what you're thinking, watch how you're reacting, and really take it on to be more aware, more kind, and more compassionate, both with yourself and with others. So that's all for today. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope it was helpful, and I'd love to get your comments, and I promise I'll respond to every single one. Bye for now.